call this regular meeting of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees to order at 7 p.m. on May 5th, 2022. Board members, district staff members, members of the audience, you are free to join me in standing as Hayden Austin, President of the Metro Crest Chamber, provides a message, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Carolyn Benavides, and the Pledge to the Texas flag led by Randy Shackman.
Heavenly Father, today is a National Day of Prayer. What a beautiful day to be able to pray over this profound school district. I know you have gotten a lot of requests today, but we know you love when we are in relationship with you. And with that being said, myself and the leaders in this room are going to lean on you a little bit more. This month is significant for a school district. CFB ISD is getting ready to not only test their students' knowledge gained over the whole year, but they are also getting ready to watch the children that they have loved and guided for 10 months prepare to depart their care. Both the testing and the summer break can cause a lot of worry and stress for everyone involved, especially because our school district cares for our kids like you do for all of us. Father, I want to pray over 4 specific groups. First, I ask that you be near to our school district leadership staff. Please remind them and show them that the tough decisions that they have made and will make are acts of honor that will serve this community for years to come. The second group I would ask that you be near is all the rest of our wonderful staff and our teachers. Remind them that what they have done extremely well, that they have cared beyond measure, and that they should be proud of their efforts caring for our students, especially during another year of such uncertainty. Third, I want to pray over all of our parents and all caregivers. Please give them the understanding that no matter where their child ends this year, that they can know that they also did a great job and that they can handle whatever this summer looks like for their families. Finally, I ask that you be near every single one of our students of all walks of life, faith, and learning. Being a child is difficult, and learning how to grow up and navigate their lives is difficult. Just remind them that they are loved and that they have a place in this world. Father, we ask all of these things in your wonderful grace. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you, Ms. Benavides and Mr. Shackman. And welcome, everyone. It's great to see another almost full house out here. It's been a long time since we've been able to experience this. The last couple of board meetings have been a lot of fun because we get to see live faces in the audience again, and that's nice. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to our goal of high expectations for all. The board uses this goal to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You'll get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorney, and real estate. For the record, board members present are Tara Herbachik, Sally Derrick, Randy Shackman, Guillermo Ramos, Cassandra Hatfield, Carolyn Benavides, and myself, Les Black. We constitute a quorum and may conduct business on behalf of the district. Before moving to our next agenda item, I would like to remind you that the board will accept comments from citizens of the district and from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so during agenda item number 3, Audience for Guests. Please submit your request to do so on one of the forms provided on the table just outside the boardroom door. You may place the completed form in the box provided on the same table or present your completed form to Administrative Assistant Kim Castagnon. When the board addresses agenda item number 3, Audience for Guests, you will be invited to the podium to speak to the board. Our agenda item number 2 is special presentations and recognitions, and items 2A, recognitions, 2B, teachers of the 9 weeks, 2C, employees of the 9 weeks, and 2D, district announcements. So for these agenda items, I will turn it over to Ms. Parnell.
Good evening, Dr. Black, Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. Tonight, we want to begin our student recognitions by drawing your attention to our beautiful artwork. This artwork is 3D, and it's from all of our high school art students. So we are very grateful for them sharing their talents with us tonight. So if you have a moment after the board meeting, please take a look at this creative work. Next, tonight we want to honor the Lady Powerlifters from Creekview High School. They recently competed in the 5A Texas High School Women's Powerlifting Association State Meet in Corpus Christi. The Lady Mustangs lifted their way into the top 10 in the state for female lifters. So congratulations to the Lady Mustangs, and as I call your name, if you'll please come forward. First, we have Jocelyn Yam, who finished 10th overall in the 114-pound weight class. Congratulations, Jocelyn. Veronica Gonzalez, who finished 12th overall in the 132 pounds weight class. Brianna Thompson, who finished 7th overall in the 148-pound weight class. And Melanie Morales, who finished 8th overall in the 220-pound weight class. Congratulations, Lady Mustangs. And from athletics, we want to move to fine arts, and we want to congratulate 6 members of the Blaylock Choir program for placing in the Texas Choral Directors Association All-State Choir. So students, if you'll come forward as I call your name. First, we have Karis Dutton. She's the alto, All-State Choir. Jaden Duprairie, bass, All-State Choir. Clarissa Garza, alto, All-State Choir. Rita Hicks, who's unable to be with us tonight, but she placed as an alto. And next we have Jackie Hannon, soprano 1, All-State Choir. And Nahara Rodriguez, soprano 2, All-State Choir. We also want to share that our UIL Fine Arts groups made 59 UIL sweepstakes and had 140 first divisions in concert and sight reading. So let's give all of our students a round of applause. Next, for staff and district recognitions, CFB ISD has been named a 2022 Best Communities for Music Education. This is the 15th time that the Fine Arts program has received this designation from the National Association of Music Merchants. This accomplishment is due to the incredible teaching staff and the talented students that we have in our district. Thank you to Mr. Brett Farr, who we want to ask to come forward, for his leadership over the past 10 years in CFB, as well as our music educators for creating an exceptional fine arts program in CFB. The HEB Excellence in Education Awards were recently announced, and CFB received 2 awards. The first award goes to Kelly O'Sullivan, and she has been named a state semifinalist for the Excellence in Education Principal Award. This award honors public school educators across Texas who go beyond and above, showing exemplary leadership. HEB received more than 1,500 applications. Of those applications, 50 principals were selected as the semifinalists, of which Kelly received this designation. Congratulations to Ms. O'Sullivan, and this was said about her by HEB. Don't leave. They said that we know that Ms. O'Sullivan will use her skills and talents to lead the way for middle and high school students in the future, and we know that she will use this role in her new Chief of Leadership position in CFB. Congratulations. Additionally, the district was also selected as a semifinalist, and out of 1,500 applications, we advanced to the top 25 districts across the state. This honor is designated to recognize school districts and is based on the following criteria: commitment to student achievement through innovative programs, parent and community involvement, and professional development opportunities for teachers and administrators. So congratulations to the district. Okay, and then next tonight, we are going to honor our teachers of the 9 weeks. And we want to congratulate not only our teachers, but also our employees of the 9 weeks. And I'll ask that you please join me in watching this brief video announcing these excellent educators.
Lindsay Liber, Perry Middle School. Taylor Prater, Polk Middle School. Tony Castillo, Creekview High School. Whitney Kelly, Early College High School. Marianne Barradas, Ranchview High School. Sabrina Pace, Smith High School. Austin Harmon, Turner High School. Loden Box, Grimes Education Center. Kenneth Stevens, B. Salazar Center. Philip Berry, Facilities, Electrician. Martha Reyna, Zone Manager. Eric Cruz, CFB ISD Athletics. And Toon Dang, Instructional Math Coach. Congratulations to our teachers and employees of the 9 weeks.
Well, congratulations to all these employees, and we will have this video posted on the website. And that concludes our recognitions. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Parnell. Big congratulations to everybody that was recognized tonight, to our teachers of the 9 weeks, to our employees who've been recognized, to our students, to our Creekview young ladies from Creekview who did so well at state. And special shout out to my Blaylock Bears and the choir members going to all state. And again to Mr. Farr for everything that he does to help our fine arts students succeed at this level. So a lot to celebrate tonight. So let's give everybody a round of applause again. So next up we have agenda item 2E, which is our update from PTA, and I believe this is Ms. Meredith Watson tonight.
Yes, hello, thank you. My name is Meredith Watson, and I am the interim CFB Council PTA President, just here to give you a quick update on PTAs across the district. First, I'd like to thank everyone who attended our Life Members Ceremony in the beautiful multipurpose center for the district. It was a wonderful night, and we were able to celebrate many of our amazing volunteers, and they help us meet our Texas PTA mission of Every Child, One Voice. And as an added bonus, we also celebrated the PTAs who received membership awards from Texas PTA and got to enjoy student performances from the Ranch View Jazz Band, the Kent Dance Troupe, and the Vivian Field Theater Troupe. We are just so grateful to the steadfast support from volunteers across our district, and just cannot express our thanks for them and the time and energy that it takes to be volunteers. And then just our last council delegate meeting is this Wednesday, the 11th, in the ESDC building at 6:30 p.m. I know you guys are all just dying to come, so we would love to have you. We'll have some treats available and also take care of some business. We're hosting PTA training the following Saturday on the 14th from 9 to 11 a.m. for our newly elected local officers. So please visit our Council PTA Facebook page to register. We're looking forward to meeting our new CFB leaders and getting them started off to a great new school year. And then Council PTA recently held our elections, and so I'm pleased to announce the PTA board for 22-23 is Pooja Shah for president. Our first vice president is open. And our second vice president of membership is Cindy Castillo. Third vice president, also open. Fourth vice president of fundraising, Meredith Blackman. Secretary Marjorie Barnes, and Treasurer Delia Gonzalez. And we are just so thankful for their willingness to serve our PTAs across the district. And then I'm pleased to announce that as of last night, we have 6,010 members of PTA in CFB. And this might seem noticeable to you guys, but this is only the second time in a decade that we have gotten over 6,000 members. So we are very proud of all of the support that you guys have given our PTAs this year, and thank you so much for joining multiple PTAs, as some of you have, and joining your local PTAs as well to give them support. And speaking of membership, I'd like to recognize the following schools for achieving the Lucky Leprechaun Membership Award from Texas PTA. For adding 17 new members in March. Yes, they're still collecting memberships in March and May, which is now. Bush Middle School, Blaylock Middle School, Newman Smith High School, and Rosemead Elementary. And then to wrap it up, we are just so grateful to all of the local PTA leaders that provide countless volunteer hours in our efforts to support our mutual goal. And these volunteers make a difference in our schools and our students' lives every single day. And then we'd also like to thank our principals for their support this year. We know that PTA does not exist without positive principal interaction, and we are so grateful that you guys have been supportive to our success this year, and we are looking forward to great things in the next school year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. And thanks for all that you guys do in PTA, and your success is success for us. So thank you very much for all the hours that you spend, and all of our PTA board members and volunteers and members. Okay, we will move to our agenda item 3, which is audience for guests. I have one request. Ms. Castagnon, are there any additional requests at this time? Okay, before we begin, I want to remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling audience for guests. Anyone interested to speak in person during audience for guests must sign in and list the topic that they want to discuss. Each speaker will be allowed to speak once during audience for guests. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board, dictated by Board Policy BED Local. Because the board wants to hear from as many of you as possible while also keeping the meeting running efficiently. Groups of more than 5 people who want to present a particular viewpoint on a topic should appoint one person to speak on behalf of their group. Please remember that the board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda for this meeting. Last, we ask that you not discuss students who are not your own child. The timer will be shown on the screen in front of you, and you will begin when you arrive at the microphone to speak. Again, your presentation will be limited to 3 minutes. So, with that, I will call up our first and our only speaker tonight, Mr. Larry Connor.
Dr. Chapman. No, yes, exactly. President Lance used to be a friend of mine, still is, and never appreciated enough board members. My name is Larry Connor, and beginning back in 1983, I began proudly my principalship here in CFB. And for the most part, I would say, you don't want to hear it, but I loved every minute of it. And before I begin to say much of anything, I need to apologize. One, for my dress tonight. I have been in this room probably more than anybody else in this room or close to it. And I normally wear a suit and a tie. Tonight I dressed as I normally would on the golf course. And secondly, I also need to apologize because quickly I'm going to read a little something. And I'm about as nervous as I was those many times I stood here in front of the board to talk while I was principal. So please forgive me, and let me begin by stating that I need my glasses, and state that I would like for the Board of Trustees and its special committee to consider Dr. Barry Dodson's name for the beautiful new multi-use CFB facility in North Irving. Having been a close friend and colleague of his since we graduated from high school and taught elementary in Irving, worked on and received our master's degree together, traveled and vacationed with each other's families, and as poor educators officiated hundreds of ball games together, I feel quite comfortable in sharing a few words about him. As a matter of fact, we even principaled together in the same Panhandle ISD as seasoned 27-year-old youngsters. ? Our careers pretty much paralleled each other until he spent busy weekends and summers working on his doctorate in school administration at Baylor. I was proud to be at the Farrell Center as he received his diploma while he was listening to a Cowboy playoff game on his radio headset. You'd have to know him. I'm sure the naming committee members have previously received information about Dr. Dodson's outstanding service record to CFB in various leadership roles, his love for his students, and respect gained from his faculties and parents alike. I hope you're also aware of his passion for learning new technologies and management and motivational techniques, and most of you won't remember them today, but he was the first leader that I knew to have a Palm Pilot, and later a BlackBerry, Blueberry, or whatever that was called, and used them religiously. That was only the beginning of his prowess as a techie. One of the most admirable qualities of Barry's was his desire to serve his school, his fellow administrators, and community. I assure you, I wasn't the only principal who entrusted Barry enough to ask him for guidance regarding a variety of educational issues.
Okay. Mr. Connor, I'm sorry, your time is
just
expired.
fine. Let me finish by saying one thing. I'm certain the committee will look at other desiring candidates, but I need you to remember one thing. I won't soon forget the picture of my friend and several of his Ranch View seniors upon their graduation, posing affectionately with the only principal they ever knew, Dr. Barry Dodson. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Thank you. All right, we will move to agenda item number 4, which are non-action items for discussion, and 4A is our health services report. So at this point, I will turn it over to our Director of Health, Ms. Sandra Leak.
Remind you that you have this at your places. Thank you, Dr. Chapman and esteemed board, for allowing me the privilege of sharing a little bit about what the work that the Health Services Department has done this school year. So our department objectives are to provide care to maximize time in the classroom, minimize the number of students that are sent home unnecessarily, mitigate barriers to access to health care, provide community referrals and follow-up to reduce absences, and limit the spread of communicable disease within the school community as much as, as much as we can. So no one will be surprised to know that a lot of our work, especially early in the year and actually through January, was related to COVID. And we'll all be very happy to see that in the rearview mirror and hopefully never to return. We collaborated with community partners to provide testing for our students and staff. Also, one of the things that we spend a great deal of time doing are our health screenings. Those are mandated by the state, so we do vision, hearing, spinal, and the boy in the upper left-hand corner of the slide, if you'll see his neck there, that's a screening that we are required to do in CFB ISD, but a lot of districts do not have the mandate to do that screening for acanthosis nigricans, which is a screening for high circulating levels of insulin. So that's another screening we do here in CFB. We also, of course, try to provide vision care for our students. 80% of learning is believed to be visual, and so we partnered with the Essilor Vision Foundation. We were able to accomplish 17 clinics this year, which is a little less than we generally do, but once again, COVID. We were able to serve 704 students. 412 pairs of glasses were provided for first-time glasses wearers. And interestingly, 103 of the prescriptions were high-index lenses. And there were an additional 18 students that were referred for more extensive evaluation and treatment. So in 2019, House Bill 2243 was passed, which allows school districts to stock albuterol and administer it to students that have a diagnosis of asthma. So far this year, we've administered albuterol 32 times. 10 of the students were able to return to the classroom. 16 were picked up by parents and referred for follow-up care. 5 of our students were seen by a pediatrician via children's telehealth, and 1 student was hospitalized. Having this stock albuterol program within our schools allows us to get those students with asthma care very promptly, and also minimizes the need to call 911 and the campus disruption that's associated with those calls. Of course, our staff teaches CPR, and there's some pictures there of some of the classes we had for some of our staff. We were also able to collaborate with Gene IQ and Dallas County Health and Human Services to host 2 COVID vaccine clinics, and so we were able to immunize 250 students for COVID. So COVID, as you know, has impacted many things over the last couple of years, and routine childhood vaccination is another thing that's been really impacted. Many children were not taken to their physician's office or clinics during the pandemic. So a recent study showed that there was an overall decrease in childhood vaccination of school-age children of 45.7%. And when you looked at children ages 5 and younger, that dropped to 83%. So we've really been trying to address that backlog of need for vaccines. We had 2 vaccine clinics, one with a Dr. Spot and Passport Health. And we've also, the district has invested in the equipment to be able to provide immunizations here within the district through the Texas Vaccine for Children's program. We have served 256 students this year and immunized or provided 624 vaccines, and we would have been able to administer a great many more, but the state has not been able to keep up with the demand. I mentioned school telehealth, that we utilize that with our some of our asthmatic students. Research has shown telehealth to improve the care of chronic conditions and reduce absenteeism. And it's a very cost-effective way to provide access to care for students that don't have insurance and don't have a doctor. So we currently have school telehealth at 10 campuses, and they're listed there on the slide. MetroCrest Hospital Authority has provided the funding for us to continue that, having that resource in those 10 campuses. And they've also authorized a position, a clinic assistant position for us to assist the nurses at those 10 campuses for the purpose of helping them to utilize telehealth more effectively for health conditions that impact attendance and classroom performance. We've had a really good relationship for a long time with Texas Women's University, and we hosted again this year 39 senior nursing students during their community and public health clinical rotations within our school clinics. So I'm very grateful and proud to remind all of you that CFB ISD implements best practices by having a nurse at every traditional campus, and this practice is consistent with this National Association of School Nurses recommendations, as well as the American Academy of Pediatrics. So in conclusion, collaboration between educators, families, and school nurses promotes healthy children and strong communities.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Thank you.
Board members, do you have questions, comments? Yes, Ms. Benavides.
Thank you for all this information. I was going to ask where it speaks of traditional campuses, what campuses would not? Is it with students? Is that like elementary, junior high, and high school only?
Yes, it's all of our campuses except for, and I believe this will change for next year, our early college high school campus, but they have nurses from Dallas College that assist the students there.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, questions? Ms. Derrick.
Mrs. Lake, thank you for the information. I applaud your team for all the work they've done over the past 2 years. Y'all have been in the thick of it, for sure. And I am so thankful for you and your entire team. A couple of things. So one I wanted to just kind of reiterate for the public is about the decrease in childhood immunization rates over the past 2 years because of COVID. Just to be clear, that is your normal routine immunizations for children we're talking of, not COVID specific immunizations.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct, yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And that's so important because we don't want to see an uptick in diseases that have been eradicated because of vaccines.
Right.
And a lot of our families have unfortunately not had access over the past 2 years. So I applaud the work y'all are doing to catch our kids up on normal past immunizations that everyone was already getting, your MMR, your DVT,
Right.
all those things that we need to get back,
Polio,
back
yes.
on track for all those things because we
Yes.
don't want to start to see those things now.
No.
So I applaud the work y'all are doing, and I love to hear that you're having such a good response to that you wish you could even give more, but you're running out. So, I mean, that's a good problem to have rather
Yes.
than a stockpile that's not being used. So that's exciting. But that's just for the public. Please keep your children immunized. It's important. Okay, so talking about nurses, a registered nurse on every campus, which I know Carolyn asked about. I fully support that initiative. I think it's imperative that we have a registered nurse on every campus. I think the past 2 years proved how even more important that was, that we didn't even know was coming, but it's so important. Where do we stand on staffing of registered nurses on our campus? What kind of deficit are we looking at for next year?
So far we have 12 vacancies, but that's not just nurses, that's also clinic assistants. However, I would love to tell you that I interviewed 3 really good candidates today, and I have a number scheduled for next week as well. So, and the district has provided some additional supports to help with onboarding new staff. So no doubt it'll be a challenge to onboard so many staff members, but I think we have the resources and we will rise to the challenge.
Okay, very good. I'm glad to hear there's applicants coming in. That's
Yes.
good to hear. Thank you again.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
You know, we may want to, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and so next week we're going to be honoring our nurses, so next Wednesday, for all the hard work and dedication that they've done to CFB. So we want to give them their time next week instead of blending in with the teachers, and so
Right.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate Ms. Leak doing that.
Ms. Leek, before you step down, I do, I know it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and we appreciate teachers every week of the year. We should more, but I don't want to wait till next week just to say how much I appreciate, and I think the board, I can speak for the board, we appreciate what you do. Ordinary times, the school nurse in the clinic is such an important part of the school, and these haven't been ordinary times. So thank you and your team for persisting through, I know, what have been really, really difficult times over the last 2 years. And thank you for the information tonight.
Thank you. And it was
Oh.
definitely a team effort. Lots of support to be able to do that.
Mr. Ramos?
I just wanted to reiterate as well what everybody on the board is saying with regards to appreciation in your department. I did notice that at the retiree dinner we had a lot of nurses that were retiring, so I'm sure you got a lot of work ahead of you. And again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Thank you.
All right, we will turn to agenda item 4B, summer school plans, and I'll turn it over to Claudia Arisleta Orta, who is our federal funds and summer school coordinator.
Good evening, Dr. Black, Dr. Chapman, members of the board. Like Dr. Black just said, I'm Claudia Arisaleta Orta, and I serve as the coordinator of federal funds and also as the coordinator of summer school. Thank you for the opportunity to present our CFB ISD 2022 summer school program. Today, I will go over the context and vision of our summer program, its sustained expansion, the planning and collaboration across departments, staffing recruitment, and the timeline. I would like to start my presentation today with 3 main factors that had a direct influence on the design of our summer program this year: ESSER funding, House Bill 4545, Supplemental Accelerated Instruction, and House Bill 3261, STAR redesign. As you know, ESSER is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund authorized by Congress to support schools and students through the pandemic. ESSER funds are meant to provide resources for critical one-time investments, time-limited programming to respond to the pandemic, and innovation that can redefine student learning, acceleration, and development. When building our ESSER plan back in 2021, CFB ISD stakeholders decided to allocate the majority of our funds, approximately 58%, to learning recovery and acceleration strategies. One of these strategies was to expand our summer school program for the next 3 years, starting in the summer of 2021 through the summer of 2023. Now let's talk about House Bill 4545. Passed during the 87th regular legislative session, House Bill 4545 establishes new requirements for supplemental accelerated instruction for students who did not meet grade level standards or did not take the STAR and STAR EOC assessment in the spring. Supplemental accelerated instruction must be provided no less than 30 hours total per subject over the subsequent summer or during the school year. Now let's talk about House Bill 3261. House Bill 3906 requires significant changes to the design of the STAR assessment. These changes were confirmed by House Bill 3261 during the 87th Texas Legislature in 2021 and will go into effect during the school year 22-23. TA's goal is to closely align the state summative assessment with classroom instruction. In a nutshell, the STAR redesign will prioritize cross-curricular passages in reading language arts that reference topics that students have learned about in other classes, and will include writing in all reading language art tests by having students write text-based responses. So going back to summer school. Last summer, we were able to offer summer school at every single one of our elementary and middle school campuses, enabling us to serve close to 30% of the student population. We were also able to provide a stipend for our summer school teachers. This summer, CFB ISD will offer summer school on all of our campuses and will serve as many students identified under House Bill 4545 as staffing allows, while providing aligned instructions through interdisciplinary units in preparation for STAR 2.0. So let's talk about our elementary and middle school programs. We will offer in-person summer school in all of our elementary and middle school campuses for grades K-8. 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade will be highly encouraged to attend in order to fulfill House Bill 4545 requirements. Learning the language will be offered to newcomers in pre-K and kinder and will be hosted at Good Elementary. Content directors will support the development of cross-disciplinary units in preparation for the new state assessment model. Last, but certainly not least, this year each campus will have one special education teacher as part of their summer school staff. Now let's talk about high school. Our high school summer program tuition will continue to be free. Students may enroll in one of the following options. Enroll in 1 or 2 classes that need to be repeated, enroll in 1 remediation class and 1 class for advancement, or enroll in 1 class for advancement. We will leverage multiple models. Majority of classes will be virtual. However, we will offer some in-person options for small group intensive instruction for a targeted group of students in English 1 and Algebra 1 in order to close gaps of foundational skills, English as a second language and newcomer classes, and review classes for STAR EOC instruction will be available for students that do not meet expectations on the May EOC test. CFB interdepartmental support is the foundation of the 5 that drive. Supporting the expansion of our program the last 2 years has been a joint effort, and every department in the district has collaborated to accomplish this goal. We have designed a program that goes above and beyond academic needs. We will support the whole child by offering services such as student counseling, behavior supports, additional language supports for our newcomers at the elementary and secondary level, transportation services for all students that qualify, dedicated nurses, and student nutrition will work around renovation projects in kitchens and cafeterias around the district to make sure all our students have access to breakfast and lunch every single day. None of this would be possible without our wonderful and dedicated staff. CFB ISD is offering special perks for our staff working this summer, such as free childcare options at this Child Academy, as well as after the bell. And thanks to all of you, we're able to offer an increase in compensation to our summer school staff. We have built in 2 work days for teachers to analyze student data, meet with content directors and instructional deans to develop lessons that will maximize student learning and close achievement gaps. The program will take place June 7th through June 30th, half day, 4 days a week. We will be evaluating the program effectiveness so every year we can continue to get better. Together we rise. In CFB ISD, we will continue to redefine student learning, acceleration, and development. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about our summer program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions from board members? Ms. Benavides?
Thank you for your report. What time is summer school? I don't show it here.
So it varies a little bit from program to program, but approximately 7:45 through 11:45. 15 minutes plus minus because of transportation.
And do you hold the classes at certain schools based on the ability for the children to get there? Because I heard you say that only qualified students could get transportation.
So actually, no, we are going to offer summer school in all of our elementary and all of our middle schools. So if they currently qualify for transportation during the school year, they will receive transportation for summer school as well.
Okay. And did you say that everyone will receive breakfast and lunch
Yes,
during
ma'am.
summer?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you for the information. This was great. I want to applaud your efforts on continuing the trend of offering it at every campus, because I do think that helps to decrease barriers for our families, and that's huge. I know prior to COVID that wasn't necessarily the model we were following, but I think that's making a big difference for children to be able to get to their home campuses. So thank you to your team for all that work, because I know the more campuses it's offered at, the more work it is for everyone, but I think we're going to see it pay off in dividends, and so I think that it's well worth it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from board members? Ms. Arisleta-Orta, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate you. We will move to agenda item 4C, which is our budget update. So I'll turn it over to Larry Guerra, who's our Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Dr. Black. Good evening, Dr. Black, Dr. Chapman, and the rest of the board. If you want to get out your green packet. So tonight I'm just going to give a brief update on the budget and how we look forecast-wise and finance-wise for this year and for the next year as well. Okay, so the topics I'm going to cover, again, I'll cover ESSER a little bit like Ms. Orta covered it as well. We'll talk about teachers and our compensation plan that we're developing, our budget initiatives that we consider when developing the compensation plan, just our general funding and our forecast for next year. So again, as like Claudia was talking about, our ESSER plan, it was actually developed and given out in 3 phases was a grant award. It was ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. ESSER 1 was in the very beginning when COVID first hit. ESSER 2 and 3 kind of came out at the same time. In fact, ESSER 3 came out right after ESSER 2, and it came with clear definitions as well, and ESSER 2 wasn't even defined yet, so we had stipulations that we had to follow right away for ESSER 3. And as you can see, we had to roll it out in 2 phases to get approval right away. There was phase 1, which is the big chunk of the $38.2 million of ESSER 3, and 12.7 was phase 2. It'll come out the last part. But again, because they came out almost simultaneously, we combined the 2 and we developed a plan that Claudia talked about a little while ago. And you can see we developed 5 major categories for the plan that was approved and submitted to TEA. And you can see as like she talked about, the bulk of it was given for learning and for learning recovery. And as a big chunk, 31.8 million of that 55 million is directed for learning. And again, like I was saying, since ESSER 3 was defined, one of the stipulations was that we had to spend a minimum of 20% on learning loss, which of that 38.1 million, 7.6 million is required for us to spend on learning loss. And I can tell you, to this point, we've already spent 8.4 million. So we're already above the minimum requirement for the state, and our plan is to continue to use it. You can see we're going to use a little over $24.5 million for the rest of the ESSER money. So that totals a little over 33 million of the 58 direct on learning loss. So if there's no questions, I want to talk about the teacher attrition numbers. I put them for the last 6 years, and you can see 4 years ago we hit a height. It was over 17% was the attrition rate for teachers. And the last 3 years we've actually trended down, even though the numbers might look higher because of the increase in salary, increase in staff. The percentages are actually lower, so we're hovering around 14 or 15%. But again, 4 years ago it was over 17%. So we're trending in the right direction and wanting to keep teachers. So with that in mind, like I said, when we start to develop the compensation plan for 22-23, the top priority is retention of staff and teachers. And we know it's been a struggle to keep staff, and well, I think we've done a good job trending downward the last 3 years. So when we start thinking about it, every 1% increase we have is roughly a $2.28 million increase in our budget. And as we've talked about, the plan for next month is to recommend a 3% increase for all staff. So when we started to talk about stipends and supplementals and some of the salaries pay scales, we actually contacted TASB to do a complete salary study for the district. So they're going to come in a little bit later this year and start doing a complete salary study. And this way they can identify if we have any weaknesses in our pay structures or our stipends. That'll help us keep competitive with districts in our area. So they're going to come do a complete study for us. So we're kind of hesitant on making any major changes until TASB makes the recommendation for us. One thing, when we started building the comp plan and the overall budget for 22-23, we do want to continue the years of service supplemental payment that we'd give our staff. I know it's been around a lot of years, so we definitely want to continue that, and we'll make that recommendation next month as well. And as you know, it gives supplemental pay for every 5 years that a staff member's with CFB. another thing we want to continue as well, and it's a newer thing that the district has done, and again, it's with retention in mind, is there's a supplemental payment for all bus drivers and monitors, and it's based on specific attendance criteria, but it offers 2 incentives for the bus drivers and the monitors, one in the fall and one in the spring. So it's kind of with these thoughts in mind that we start to develop the whole compensation plan for 2022-23. As you know, retaining staff, as I talked about, is a top priority for the district, especially in the climate we're in right now with so many shortages in all the surrounding districts. So with the 3% salary increase that we want to recommend, there's roughly a $6.84 million increase to the budget. With the stipends and the small supplemental pay changes we want to make and increases in the staff, it's roughly $0.4 million. And you can see the couple other ones, the incentives, the bus drivers. So the total investment in the staff is roughly $7.75 million for 22-23. And then some of the budget initiatives that we have to consider, like we know fuel costs have gone up significantly and we don't see it going down really, so we try to anticipate those increasing costs. That's why we put about $500,000 increased in fuel and oil for transportation costs. And as you know, subs, with the shortage in teachers and people being out with COVID, we try to adjust for that as well. So then there's just a couple other summer school, like Claudia talked about, is now that we're unrolling it at every single campus, even though ESSER pays for some of it, the general fund will have to account for the rest of it. And another one I want to talk about is the property insurance, our property and casualty insurance. As you know, with all the inclement weather we had the last couple of years, all the rates have gone up significantly. So we're taking, our increase is going to be almost $500,000 to increase our property and casualty insurance through TASB, so we'll have to account for that cost as well. And this part is just the new additions. Like when we start to meet with staff and departments, we try to see what the needs are, and you can see the emphasis again is on teachers. We plan on proposing 28 new positions that roughly account for $1.9 million. So it's with all these factors in mind that we kind of developed our first preliminary budget. You can see it on the far column on the right. We do plan on adopting a balanced budget this year, and you can see on the second column is our current budget for the 21-22 year, and the third column is actually our actual numbers that we try to forecast them out for the rest of the year. And you see the large red numbers are our recapture payment that we're due every year to the state. So like I said, when we start developing the budget, we try to go out 5 years, although we know it's not realistic to rely on it, but we try to be conservative when we start going out. This year, with our preliminary tax numbers coming in, our values, we're looking at probably being conservative, a 6% increase in our property values for the year 2022. So with 2023 starting, they anticipate kind of the same, but for budget purposes, we always go a little conservative, so we went down to 5% for the year 2023. And again, it's part of how we project our revenues. A big part of how we project our revenues is the ADA and our subs pops, and we're calculating them this year based on historical data. And as you know, we had hold harmless this year, but with attendance rates trending up, we feel 92.3% is a good conservative number to use. So like I said, we watch it all the time. We have mad scientists down there to do math all day long. So we keep running these predictions. So we'll have predictions again next month, and so we start to see changes, and we'll adjust accordingly. The expenditures again, we're going to propose a 3% raise for 22-23, and then because we do forecast out, and I think when we've had talks, even though we're in our current year, we're always a year behind when we're trying to close out audit. We're projecting the year 22-23, so we're working in the third year, and now we start working in the fourth year. So that's why we start to project, revenues for the next few years. And this is just kind of the bar graph talking about the 5-year forecast that we have. The major thing that I wanted to point out is after the 23-24 school year, our FTG grant goes away. So you can see our red line is our revenues, and you can see how it's going to drop after the 24-25 school year. And we feel there's going to be some relief for the districts, but we don't assume anything at this point. So like I said, without making any kind of assumptions for any kind of change in funding, you can see our fund balance over the last few years and what we forecast for the next couple of years. The TEA always recommends maybe 2.5 to 3 months of fund balance. And right now, we're sitting about 5 months of fund balance, and that was done kind of with purpose because we know that once the FTG goes away, that there could be a significant impact to the district. So we try to make sure our fund balance is healthy, so if there is some kind of change and there's no relief, that we're prepared to absorb it. So that's kind of the preliminary budget and what to kind of expect in June. If there is any changes to ESSER, like I said, there's just been minor changes. Like I said, when it was hard to fill all the ESSER positions and we try to reallocate a little bit of funds, that's how we came up with the retention incentive used out of ESSER, because we realized the stress that was put on the teachers we do have on staff. So this is a way of rewarding them a little bit with the money that was unspent. So if there's any changes, we'll talk about ESSER again next month. We'll continue to do our forecast for the current year as it closes out, and we'll give our next forecast for the 22-23 budget. And also in June, we'll present our compensation plan for approval with the board. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Guerra. Are there questions? Mr. Bocek.
Thank you. Lots of effort in budget. On slide, can't even see it with my glasses, 16, that shows kind of where we are, actual budget forecasted. The 2022-2023 preliminary budget under expenditures and payroll expenses, that number hasn't adjusted from the forecasted actuals. Does that include our new, the proposed compensation and increase in stipends, or has that not been factored into this?
Yes, it's been factored in. It's been factored in.
So why, I guess I'm confused if our payroll and compensation will increase by 6.8 million. I would have expected to see an increase in that line from this year's actuals.
Yes, ma'am. And the reason for that is a lot of the positions are ESSER positions. A lot of them are child nutrition positions, and they're also Title I positions, which are not budgeted positions. They're grant position money. Those are paid with grant monies, not with the 199 general fund money.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members? Ms. Hatfield?
I just wanted to ask a question. I know last month we talked a little bit about some of the SPED vacancies that we still had. So when we take into account the staffing additions for next year, is that still holding that those vacancies will also be filled in the budget?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Benavides.
Thank you. Going back to the compensation for next year, what date will that take place to all of our staff?
It depends on the staff. If it's a 226 employee, they start July 1. Teachers start September 1.
Of this year?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And then regarding the property insurance increase, is that based on a more costly policy or our property value?
No, on the policy just going up. Like I said, we had minor damage, and there was no real significant damages in the district that we had to file with insurance, but statewide there was major insurance claims, so it obviously affects everybody in the state. So ours went up from, I think, around 2.2 to about 2.7 million for the year.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Shackman.
Mr. Guerra, thank you. Great information as always. As we look at 3% increase for teachers, 3% for staff, how are you seeing that relative to the districts around us? Is that keeping us competitive? And I know we've talked about some different, like almost a year ago, we talked about a 2% increase. I'm glad to see we're looking at 3%, but we want to be able to attract the best, and we want to be able to attract teachers that the other guys wish they could get.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's funny you say that, because when we first started our projections, every district in our area was going 1.5% to 2% at the most. Like 2% was the top end we were getting. So we knew budget-wise and revenue-wise that we'd be okay to do 2%. And then, like I said, within the last 3 or 4 weeks, everybody started, jumping to 3, 4, 5. Some are even going 6%. And when we talk to districts, they're self-admitting, like, I don't know how we're going to do it. they're just doing it and, you know, hoping something else happens for them. But, you know, I don't think we're in that position. Some districts have large amounts of vacancies, and we're really low compared to everybody really in our area. So we think with the retention incentive they all approved in October has really helped us with keeping people, because they know that they're going to get it if they stay here through the next school year. So I think it's really helped us in a big way, and I think it's helped us from having to dive in the, you know, deep end of the pool with both feet, you know, to try and go 5 or 6% like some of the other districts are doing. And like I said, they're admitting to us saying, I just don't know how we're going to absorb this. So I think we're good in having a little bit of pause. And like I said, we'll continue to run numbers and continue to poll other districts in the area. So like it could change, but like at this point, I think 3% is a good number that keeps us competitive. We were number 3 last year in overall teacher salary, and I think even with the 3%, it'll keep us at around 3rd or 4th place still.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Derrick.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Guerra. I want to build off of Ms. Hatfield's question, because I was thinking the same thing, but I still feel like I have a question, and they're related to the SPED positions. And so you mentioned that there's 28 additional staffing positions for next year in the budget, the proposed budget, but SPED spoke of quite a few vacancies. So is that 28 reflective of any of these SPED vacancies?
Well, no, ma'am, because they're already vacant. They're already available. Like if we could hire them today, we'd hire them right now.
They're already in the budget.
They're already in the budget.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yes,
so this isn't something that needs to be added. But I do know that the special ed department was given the opportunity to provide, I guess, additional feedback on more positions they were interested in. So has that work been completed? Are we adding any additional positions for them?
Yes, ma'am, we're trying to. And like I said, we meet collectively as a group with curriculum, with SPED, with human resources, the business office. We're always meeting and kind of collaborating what we can do to help and what we can afford and who we can attract to get here. So, but yes, they're open, and if we could hire them, we would hire them immediately.
So the 28 that you're referring to, how were those determined?
Those are determined by different needs in the district. Like I know, like Ms. Gillen was talking about how AVID's changed and how it's grown so much. There's teachers that we need in that department for AVID that have grown. So those are the type of positions that have been added. Or if classes change, like we're offering some fine art classes that we hadn't offered before, so those positions have to be filled.
Okay. But there is still SPED conversations happening about additional positions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments, questions from board members? Ms. Benavides.
Looking at slide number 17 with the 5-year projection assumptions, expenditures, you talk about a 3% starting this year, which I understand that, but what is the 2% increase to follow?
We assumed, or we're planning on the 3% increase for this year, and when we start forecasting, like I said, we always forecast a couple years out. We already planned for a 2% increase, so we try to build that into what we think our revenues will be in 2 years.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hatfield.
Sorry, I had one other question. On the
Yes, ma'am.
elementary teachers, is that just general education teachers, or are there just different types of positions that are also funded as that line?
No, they're general education teachers.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. There's a growth in the lower grade area, kinder area, so those were the teachers that are needed.
Anything else from my colleagues on the board? Okay, Mr. Gareth, I want to thank you for a very clear presentation and informative. We appreciate your time and your effort tonight. Thank you very much. Board members, if you will bear with me, I'm going to ask if we can take just a very, very brief recess, maybe 7 minutes. It is 8:05 right now, so let's recess. Let's recess for 7 minutes right now. This meeting of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees is called back to order at 8:11 p.m. We're going to proceed to our next agenda item, which is agenda item 5, our consent agenda. It's a mechanism that the board uses to approve a number of routine items together with a single vote. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the public notice for this meeting includes a list of all consent agenda items, and the board has been provided ample information about these items in advance. Prior to any action taken on the consent agenda, board members may request withdrawal of individual items for clarification or discussion. Board members, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda at this time?
Dr. Black, may I talk on 5B at this time?
Go ahead, Dr. Chapman.
Yes, sir. I'm very proud to announce that we have a new principal for Bush Middle School, Lacey Tilley. She comes as the AP at McWhorter. And we're so proud of her. She's going to transition from McWhorter to Bush, even though Miss Reed is giving us heck. But we're going to move forward. She's going to be a great addition as we continue to move that middle school forward. So congratulations, Miss Tilley.
Yeah. Welcome on board, or welcome to the principalship, I should say. Okay, so board members, are there any items to be removed? I've heard none before. Do I hear any now? Okay, hearing none and seeing none. Board members, do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda? I have a motion from Ms. Derrick.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Derrick. Is there a second? See a second from Ms. Hatfield. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise their hand. All those opposed? By a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. We will move now to agenda item number 6, which is items for discussion and or action. Since we had no agenda items removed from the consent agenda, we'll jump to 6B, which is to consider or approve amending the District of Innovation Plan. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Mersch.
Dr. Chapman, Dr. Black, members of the board, thanks for the opportunity to talk about the District of Innovation Plan. It's before you. It has the purple cover sheet. In 2015, House Bill 1842 was passed, which allowed school districts to become Districts of Innovation, or DOI. Under a DOI plan, school districts are allowed many of the advantages that are available to charter schools. The goal of a DOI plan is to enhance local control and give districts greater flexibility to implement strategies and innovations that support the district's goal. The DOI is in effect for 5 years. The current plan will expire at the end of the 22-23 school year. Districts can amend the plan during the 5-year period by having the District Improvement Council, or the DIC, evaluate and vote on the proposed amendments. The information is then presented to the Board of Trustees, for your consideration. Dr. Chapman asked that the team look at innovations from other districts throughout the state. 26 innovations were identified as far as for consideration. A DIC subcommittee, which consisted of Ms. Kim Brady, Ms. Nicole Cunningham, Ms. Delia Gonzalez, Ms. Elise Longazelle, in addition to cabinet, evaluated the 26 proposed innovations. It was determined that 8 out of the 26 innovations needed to be presented for consideration. The 8 innovations were presented to the principals, and they provided feedback. The innovations were then presented to the DIC on April the 25th. The DIC voted on each of the 8 innovations. The majority of the committee agreed that all 8 innovations would be beneficial to CFB and should be presented to you, the Board of Trustees, for consideration. So we will explain the 8 innovations. Dr. Hamlin will talk about innovations 1 through 5. Dr. Davis will talk about innovations 6 and 7. And last but not least, Ms. Machado will talk about innovation number 8. Dr. Hamlin?
The first innovation has to do with the 9% rule. As you know, students any grade from kindergarten through 12th grade may not be given a credit or receive a final grade unless they're in class 90% of the time the class is offered. CFB absolutely expects all students to be in class 90% of the time, but our current reality is that some students are unable to attend class for a variety of reasons that include personal illness, family matters, family concerns, disabilities, and the list really goes on. We believe it's extremely important for us to have flexibility at the campus level regarding the 90% rule, especially when a student is able to provide evidence of mastery of content. The second has to do with early release days. And as you know, we used to have early release days several years ago. The school day should be 7 hours long, which includes lunch and recess. What we're asking the board to approve is we would like to increase the teacher professional development and collaborative planning opportunities by bringing back early release days. Students would attend school for 4 hours, be released, and then teachers could be engaged in planning time, eating time. The third is limitations on school student suspension. As you know, students in grades 3 and below cannot receive out-of-school suspensions. CFB will continue to use restorative practice to keep our students in our classrooms, in our campus. But unfortunately, there are times when students engage in behaviors that do not necessarily fit into the categories such as weapons, violence, or being under the influence. But they definitely probably should be considered for removal from the instructional setting. Currently, students in these situations sometimes fail to understand the seriousness of their behaviors due to the administrative limitations in responding to those behaviors. Elementary counselors. As you know, we are working with a 500 to 1 ratio for students to counselors at the elementary level. CFB will continue to support, as you know, the social, emotional learning and well-being of our students, but we believe that there are unique needs at the campus level that we could have some flexibility. If we had the flexibility, we could hire social workers instead of a counselor that could really provide some wraparound services for our students that would benefit that particular community. And then the last one that I'll cover is student attendance time. The current TEA code really expects us to have a standard attendance time across the district. An example would be that if our standard attendance time is 9 a.m., a student were to come into school at 9:45, they would be considered absent that entire day. Okay, so what we want is some flexibility to where our campus can pick their attendance time for their particular campus, so that doesn't happen.
The why is we look at TEA has not ever denied our waiver request when it's sent in. So when we staff in the fall, we staff at a certain number. Sometimes the class will go over the TEA 22 to 1 ratio, 23 to 1. The teacher's like, I wanted it 23 to 1. So we'd have to do a waiver to the state. So what this allows us to do is skip all the formal steps of presenting to the Board of Education, Board of Trustees, sorry, having a vote to the Board of Trustees, and then submitting it to the state. It just allows us to iron out that process and just allow a report to the board that doesn't need a vote. And Innovation 7, we have two kinds of contracts. The probationary contract we give to teachers, but there's also a 5 of 8 contract. So if a teacher in the last 8 years has taught 5 of those 8 years, they have a contract where after 1 year they go into a term contract, which is a 2-year term contract. What this innovation would do for us is allow us a second year of a probation status on a 5 of 8, giving our principals the ability to go in and really do solid evaluations over 2 years. Because the time frame is so quick to report after year 1, you don't really get a good picture of a new teacher, and you want to make sure that they fit what we need for our kids.
there's no flexibility with our teacher evaluation system, with our Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, often referred to as T-TEST. And we also have a student growth measure where we evaluate teachers based on their student growth. And what we would like with this innovation would allow us to continue to use, by focusing on our PLCs and knowing every student by name and by need, and along with our extensive map testing that we do 3 times a year, teachers would monitor the progress of all students, which is not limiting to the 4 students that are identified on the current Texas evaluation system. So we would actually be doing more monitoring of all kids.
Thanks, everyone. Board members, do you have questions? Ms. Eric.
Mr. Mersch, my first question is there a list provided by TEA that's considered like innovations that you can choose from, or do districts just go and create their own? I just need to get a baseline of like,
So
where do these ideas come
TEA
from?
does provide a list of different sections, but they don't provide specific innovations. They just provide a list saying you're allowed to submit innovations under these sections or these categories.
And then they have to approve whatever ideas we come up with.
Yes.
Okay. The only one I want to ask about is the Innovation 2, the early release. I know it says in the report that principals were included in the discussion. And I don't know who wants to answer this question. I'm curious from a family standpoint, parent standpoint, and barriers, what is more challenging for our families? Is it an early release day, or is it a complete holiday? Because, I think about working parents that can't take off midday to come pick up their kids that we're now releasing at noon. Is that more of a barrier and challenge for them, or would it be better for them just to know the whole day they have to take off work? Did we include that in the conversation when we were deciding to bring back early release?
So these are put in there as an option. We're not actually using this one at this time. It's an option for the next 5 years to be able to look at that and see if that's something the district would like to do. And yes, that was part of the discussion as far as what can we do with CDA, ATB to provide support for those parents.
Okay, very good. Yeah, if we do talk about bringing that back, I definitely
Yes.
think we should bring community input on that, because I know that in the past that has definitely been a challenge for families to get off work early to pick up their kids at noon.
Yes,
So, okay.
it's
thank
definitely a point of consideration and discussion.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And note that we've already approved the 22-23 school year, and those weren't included. This is just if.
Mr. Bocek.
On innovation, well, first thing, I'm the liaison to the DIC, and so I did sit in on the final discussions as far as when these were presented and discussed and voted on and those sort of things. So I just wanted to clarify to y'all that was the process followed for that. But on class size requirement, I just want a clarification made, to everybody that it is the process only. There's not a change in our class sizes. I mean, there's no movement from what we're trying to do there. It's the reporting.
That's
of
correct.
that
There's
information.
no change in
Yeah.
anything we're doing other than the formal aspect of bringing it here in the board and you approving it. Because the question is, it's really just redundant. As it comes here and you approve it, you're still going to get all the same information. We're still going to pursue the 22-to-1 ratio from K through 4. Nothing will change on that. Like I said, it's just the redundant piece of bringing that report to the board where y'all have to approve it, so we send it to the state and they approve it every time. And that's the question, does that make sense to continue to do that?
Right, and the continued discussions and collaboration with the teachers and the principals and the campus staff on whether if they have 23, what do we need to do?
That is correct.
So
Yes.
that is not stopping.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Shackman.
Thank you, Dr. Black. Mr. Mersch, a couple of questions. On Innovation 1, awarding credit to students who don't meet the 90% rule, how are we going to determine mastery?
I'm going to defer that one to Dr. Hamlin.
typically, I mean, we do have what is called excessive absent makeup, so they do have opportunities to actually do the coursework itself. But through assessments, teachers are allowed to assess them. We're not using the STAR end of the year or anything like that to determine that mastery, but it typically is based on the assessment of the classroom for that content. Could be the final exam.
It's kind of a slippery slope, and I'd encourage us to be more definitive with that. I know kids all the time are missing hours of class, and they get to go to 30 minutes of makeup, and they get, you know, an hour and a half or more and all that. So that's something that I think we owe our community, is when a student walks across our stage, that they can know they actually have completed, not they've just been granted. And so I would encourage us to do something that defines, not just, well, this teacher says this, or they do mastery by producing a portfolio here or something. So that's just something I'd encourage us to think about. And
absolutely, if you don't mind me saying it, yeah, that's one of the things we have talked about is, you know, that's why when up there it does say that using district procedures, we're going to create the procedures that the campuses must follow in order to determine where the mastery is met.
Right, and create uniformity.
It's not going to be from one campus to the other. It's going to be across the district. We'll have a standardized process.
Great.
Working with the attendance committees at each campus.
Good. And on number 7, I'm confused. Teachers with 5 of 8. Who are that? Are those teachers that are new coming into the district? So it's not a teacher that's been here 6 years.
No, they're new teachers to the district, but they're not new to education.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
That refers to 5. They've taught 5 of the previous 8 years in a public school district, right? And the state law says they can be put on 1 year. This would waive that and allow us to do 2 years of probationary contracts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mersch and all the others who participated in that presentation. Do I have a motion regarding this item? Mr. Bocek.
I move that we approve amending the District of Innovation Plan as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Bocek. Is there a second? We have a second from Ms. Derrick. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please show by raising their hand. Let the record show that by a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. All right, we will now move to item 7, which is closed meeting as authorized under Texas Government Code, including but not limited to Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, real property, 551.074, personnel, 551.076, security devices, 551.082, school children, district employees, disciplinary matter or complaint, 551.0821, personally identifiable student information, or 551.084, investigation. So we will go to item 7A, pursuant to Section 551.071, the Texas Government Code, consultation with district legal counsel regarding legal matters or legal and procedural matters relating to the sale of real property consisting of 1.78 acres, more or less, located at 2001 Kelly Boulevard, Carrollton, Texas 75006, and item 7B, pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code, real property, deliberation regarding potential sale of the surface only of district real property consisting of 1.78 acres, more or less, located at Ted Polk Middle School, 2001 Kelly Boulevard, Carrollton, Texas 75006. So audience members, you're welcome to remain in the boardroom. I encourage you to come look at the beautiful art at the front of the room. And there's some great jewelry and ceramics. It's just great stuff. And we will recess into room 4 for deliberations. The time is now 8:31 p.m. Okay, we are back on the record in open session, having returned from closed session. The time is now 8:58 p.m. And we're at agenda item 8A, consider and take possible action to approve the sale of the surface only of district real property consisting of 1.78 acres, more or less, located at Ted Polk Middle School, 2001 Kelly Boulevard, Carrollton, Texas, 75006. Including adoption of a resolution. Does any board member have a motion? All right, hearing no motion, we will move from agenda item 8. We'll move on, and agenda item 9 was to have been another closed meeting, but that's been removed from the agenda, as well as agenda item 10. So we'll skip through those and move to agenda item 11, which is comments from board members regarding posted agenda items. Board members, do you have any comments regarding our posted agenda items tonight? Ms. Derrick.
I know we mentioned it earlier, but it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we recognized our teachers of the 9 weeks, but I just want to make sure and express my appreciation to all of our staff. I hope teachers are feeling the love this week, from all of their families, students. Know that we appreciate you so very much and are just so thankful for you, and we love you very much.
Thank you for that, Ms. Derrick. I know the board would all concur with that as well. Any other comments from board members regarding the agenda tonight, or items that were on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Do you have something, Randy? I see you look like you're raising your hand. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So let's move to agenda item 12. I apologize for that. And we've reached the end of our agenda, and we are adjourned at 9 p.m.